Welcome to the Humble Grape Podcast, and today, Carlos, my buddy over here, the one.
Hello, everybody.
We have the joy of chatting to Martin Jezek, who is currently the master sommelier at the Corinthia Hotel.
Not a master sommelier yet.
Not yet.
Working on it.
Working on it.
Work in progress.
So you run the wine program there. So just a quick intro on Martin. He's from the Czech Republic, and that's where he first fell in love with wine. His dad used to work for the French embassy, so they got to travel around France and taste wines, and that's how the wine bug bit, but I'm sure he's going to tell you something more. And now he's working at the fabulous Corinthia Hotel, which is honestly one of the most stunning hotels in the UK. It's a new kid on the block. I don't think it's much more than 10 years old. 5-star, 279 rooms, three restaurants, 3 bars, lots of banqueting ballrooms and stuff like that. They call it the Grand Boutique Hotel of London. I'm looking forward to hearing some interesting stories. And it's really interesting to have someone with the perspective that you have of, how can I put it? You'll have people from almost every country in the world coming to your hotel. So welcome on the show. Nice to have you with us, Mark. Thanks for coming. And tell us a little bit about, firstly, when did you start working at the Corinthia? How did that happen?
Started in January 2020, so literally just pre-COVID. So
nice.
It was a bit of a bumpy start.
Good
of course. Very good start.
Baptism of fire.
Yeah, literally. So bit of a interesting start in Corinthia. Of course, in March, was it mid-March? Everything closed. And this I was at that time started as assistant head sommelier in Carriages.
Yeah.
So, of course, working for Tom Carriage was very, very, very exciting. Then we reopened in 2020, and since then, of course, we had another lockdown in the winter of 2020, and then just continued 2021. Reopened. We did actually a very exciting pop-up when we only could
be
outside in the courtyard of the hotel, which was very, very exciting. So that's sort of when really, the whole 2020 was, of course, just you worked, then break, lockdown. Then again, you work 2 weeks. Then suddenly, I don't know how was it called. London was put in the zone 3 or what was the levels. Then suddenly you could only do this and that. So it was obviously very, very difficult to operate. So 2020 was a very interesting year. But then, of course, in 2021, that's also when the head sommelier left. When we reopened in 2021, of course, the head sommelier was not present. I was still assistant, but pretty much started managing, reopening the list. Of course, there were still questions. We couldn't really spend money. The wine list, we pretty much were just depleting the stock. But then, of course, we had to cautiously start building the wine list again. So that's pretty much where the journey started for me with Corinthia. And of course, working alongside chef like Tom Carriage and the team was very, very exciting. Was very busy when we returned back to downstairs into the main restaurant, and later on got promoted to the head sommelier, and since March 23 I'm overlooking everything in the Corinthia Hotel when it comes to the wine, including Carriages Bar and Grill. But of course now that the operation is very, very big, the hotel is very busy. So
it is fantastic, and it must be very complex. You must have hundreds of wines, tons of people working for you. It must be quite stressful. How do you manage all of that?
Fortunately, I'm one of those people who actually, I do love my job. Yeah. Of course, it has the drawbacks, and sometimes it can get hectic now. Obviously, heading towards the festive season, it's very, very busy.
Yeah.
But, of course, there are some challenging moments. But most important is to have a good team. Of course, right now I'm having a team of 7 sommeliers.
Yeah.
2 in the North Hall restaurant and 5 in the Carriages Bar and Grill.
Okay.
So, of course, 2 head sommeliers. So those people are very, very key for me to make sure that everything is followed, every standard is being done properly, and of course these people are literally the key of success.
Absolutely,
for the hotel and for myself. So I manage obviously at this point also to delegate the job. For example, when it comes to creating of the list, the head sommeliers are obviously very much involved in their departments, in their outlets, creating the list. Of course, I overlook everything, but I really want the head sommeliers to have their input into the wines, because they are the ones on the floor, they are the ones speaking to the guests. So I really don't want to take this as a one-man show, because that first of all I would fail, and second of all it wouldn't be exciting for the guest, and it wouldn't be exciting for any of my colleagues and my sommeliers. So that's for example one of the reasons why how I manage it, that actually many of those jobs, like developing the list, is actually being done by the head sommeliers to a certain extent. And of course I can just overlook the financial part to make sure that we are all going the same direction. Of course, if one of the head sommeliers would suddenly decide that the wine list should be, I don't know, only a Greek wine, then of course I would very quickly step in and saying that we need a little bit more than that. Of course, not a problem with a Greek wine, but not only a Greek wine, because we don't need 2 pages of Greek wine, let's say it this way. But we still need to go in the direction where we want to, and this is not just from me, this is as a hotel what we represent, and of course the clientele which we are serving, which is also
your clientele is so diverse. It must be very difficult to have a wine list to please people from like 60 different countries, or probably even more.
The lists obviously, again, trying to make every department a little bit unique, especially when it comes to the wine program. So it's not that there would be one universal list for each outlet. It's each outlet really has slightly distinctive list. Of course, there are a few sort of core references on the list which are being shared. Let's say like our house champagne, sweet wines, etc., etc. But when it comes to creating the list, it's all very unique to the particular outlet. So, for example, we have the outdoor garden, which in the summertime is sort of Mediterranean style, and in the winter it's more that alpine thing. So, for example, there we really do that. We serve during summer. We serve everything in from magnums, just to make it a little bit more exciting, because that's when people go. Sometimes even larger formats. So literally over there, you can go and pretty much 80% of the by the glass is being served from a magnum. So which is always
it's phenomenal. I bet you there's not many places that can do that.
Yeah, I mean I went a little bit far now, because I have, for example, now in our Norfolk bar, which is extremely popular, literally full every day. We're now serving few red wines out of 6 liters, few whites as well. We have a one big 18-liter bottle of port. Do you come to the
table with the 6 liter?
Yeah, we do. The problem is, when is it like full? When is it like half empty, and this?
That's okay.
Then it's okay. But I'm telling the waiters, it's okay. If you're not comfortable, you can pour it at the station and this. But people love this. This is really the wow factor for the guests when they come and they have this big bottle, because you can pour your entry-level Sauvignon Blanc out of the bottle. People are not excited about it, but when you pour it out of a 6-liter bottle, it really brings that wow factor, a little bit of that experience to the guests.
Theatre.
Yeah, exactly. That's why people come to Corinthia.
That's cool.
It's not that like with every good hospitality, it's not just about eat and drink. It's of course about the experience. Maybe even now mostly about the experience. So that's some of it. Of course, then Norfolk restaurant has very different wine list to Carriages. Carriages currently is around 800 references. Norfolk is over 1,000, aiming to go even higher next year there. So we of course planning to do a refurb there. We have a new chef, Francesco Mazzei, who's going to take over, and we're looking next year, hopefully somewhere around early summer, to open a new Italian restaurant. So of course there it's going to be very Italian driven, for example, but it's still internationalist, because as you mentioned, we have a very diverse clientele. And we have, our hotel is focusing a lot on the North American clientele, so mainly US, also Canada. So of course they want to drink a little bit different things than, for example, what we have in Carriages, because Tom Carriages is huge in UK, and there we have the British clientele. So of course there, for example, Bordeaux is very, very big. And very popular.
Interesting.
Super interesting. So you've been in the wine industry for 10 years? Is that right?
10 years. Started to be sort of interested, early 2014. I think I got my first sort of certification as a sommelier in April 2014. So just over 10 years.
Nice.
Time flies.
It does.
And when it comes to love for wine, we all have the stories, our personal stories, of that particular glass of wine that gave you the bug, that made you fall in love with wine?
Yeah.
What's your story?
Well, actually, I don't really have the,
You
the
don't have
particular
one.
glass of wine. Well, I mean, it really sort of started, as you mentioned, my father used to work for French embassy, and also he had many friends there. So pretty much every summer vacation we were going to France for 2-3 weeks.
Whereabouts in France? All over?
Normandy.
Normandy.
mainly.
Oh,
It's,
nice. Yeah.
not really a wine region, to be honest.
But still tons of wine from all over France. In those restaurants.
Exactly. So, and this is like exactly late 90s, early 90s when I was going there. We always drove the car through Germany, going to France.
Fantastic.
So we were always passing through Champagne, and of course,
Did you
because
stop?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But my father, of course, knew what Champagne is about, and I was always very interested in Champagne. That's pretty much where it all started. That me, I was, that sort of initial why Champagne is being called only Champagne if it's made in the Champagne region, which sort of is one of the first sort of basis for why wine is unique from certain terroir. Why is it unique to a place? So I was very interested in Champagne, and where it sort of started, I remember I was asking my my father, okay, tell me the best Champagne, which is the best Champagne.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can't really say that. There's so many, so many unique styles and this. I'm just give me one. No, there must be one. And just like, well, you can say Krug, So
Okay, yeah.
I remember
That was a place to start.
and back then they were always getting the equivalent of like a decanter wine magazine or Wine Spectator in the embassy. So my father always brought me the magazines, and I was reading, and they had a big tasting of Krug. And this, and of course I didn't have any money to buy it.
No.
But then I was quite lucky that I started studying hospitality, and I was being for my internship. I was in Mandarin Oriental in Prague. So
That's a great experience.
so of course
beautiful
I was 16 years old, and this was literally the pinnacle of hospitality in Czech Republic, in Prague. And of course we at that point I really had the chance, the sommeliers, the suppliers were coming. We could have tasted the wines, exactly. I had a chance to taste Krug and this. That's where really I started to be very intrigued into the sommelier role. Obviously, there was a sommelier present as well. And started to learn about the wine, and this would obviously back then help just the very brief basics from the sommelier and self-studying.
Yeah, that's cool. That's interesting. Your wine journey starting in that place and being lucky enough to try those wines. Yeah.
Which is not a bad place to start, right?
No, yeah, I'm very, very lucky. It's kind of funny because, of course, then I managed to transfer when I was working in Mandarin Oriental in Prague to Mandarin Oriental London when I worked in, Dinner by Heston, the Michelin star restaurant. I moved to London when I was 20.
Right.
So of course there was a big team of 9 sommeliers. Back then the head sommelier was preparing for his master sommelier, and I came very much raw, untouched, by the serious, wine programs. Like back then you couldn't see anything like this in Czech Republic. Of course, even when I was a sommelier in Czech Republic, it was already sort of comfortable job, but I knew I had maybe around 250 references. I didn't have anyone who I could learn from, so I decided to take that sort of step, starting pretty much from the bottom, taking the commis-sommelier job in Dinner by Heston, and work my way through.
Brilliant. Must have been brutal when you first came to London.
It was very brutal. I remember I lost the first 3 months. I lost like 10 kilos.
Brutal.
I lost like 10 kilos. I was non-stop stressed, but especially the first year. And and this was obviously the very different hospitality.
Of course, yes, it's
now.
very, very brutal. If you did something wrong, you get fired on the spot.
Exactly. Yeah. So you had to be there on time. It was a very good school. Naturally, there were some very difficult days when I was really thinking, I think maybe I should give up on this, but fortunately I didn't. And still now looking at it back, it was great. I learned so much in that place. And,
I mean, that's interesting. It's what some people don't say often. Is I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and people, setting up businesses, and even myself personally. There's been a bunch of times in various businesses or various things I had when I came very close to giving up, and I can remember those, and people don't speak about them that often. Yes. But when it feels really dark, and you think you just can't go on anymore, and then something happens, and you just manage to carry on. How was that for you?
I mean, there was some difficult. I think always had that sort of veil, just saying, "All right, you moved to London. If you would move back, to Prague, Czech Republic, I would probably see it as a failure." So I was kind of always didn't want to sort of fail, and there was always someone else in the team who pushed me, who said, "Okay, you're doing a good job," and this. Of course, it wasn't all just being bullied and this.
No.
There was, of course, a very good support as well from the management. Very high demand, very, it was very difficult, but at the same time, you got the support and this. You just had to be in the right mindset. The first year was very difficult, but I think once I really settled in the role, in a new environment, in things being done differently, then sort of became more comfortable with it, and of course started to grow and looking for another step. So it was always for me something that there was another goal which I wanted to achieve. If it wouldn't be there, then I think I would give up, I would fail. But there was always something I wanted to go, a next step.
It's amazing that you have that mindset, because I come across a lot of people today, and like some people, no, my job's really, really tough. I need to go and do something that's easier. And my question to them is always: is it really tough because all the processes and everything are messed up, or is it really tough because your learning curve is still very steep? And if they tell me it's because my learning curve is still very steep, I'm like, well, that means you're in the right place. You're absolutely in the right place. You've got to stay there until you're on top of it, because you're getting massive amounts of growth. If you want to go somewhere else and have an easy life, your growth's going to stall, and it's going to take you 5 years to get where you would have got in 2. So you're quite young to be running the wine program at Corinthia now. And when you came to London, you put yourself through its paces. You did the hard yards. You did all the brutal work. Your learning curve was massive, and that's why you're successful today.
Absolutely, but it's important even now to continue with that. It's always another goal. Something to push, something to achieve. I think I always tell this myself, that if I would really become comfortable and not have any goals, it's time to go.
Exactly.
Like I have this. I had this, of course, when I was working for Mandarin Oriental. I was there 5 years. I didn't really see anything else in the future there. I didn't really have any goals within the place. I left, of course, because I was in that place for 5 years. In the company, I was for almost 9 years in Mandarin Oriental. Pretty much started my career. It was difficult, that decision. It took me over probably 6 months to make this decision. But then I was just like, okay, I'm not moving anywhere. I'm kind of comfortable. This is not what I want. So of course, then when we were in January 2020, and then COVID happened, I regretted I left the company, which was where I was 10 years. But of course, things fortunately worked out, okay for me, and managed to obviously progress within the company. Now almost 5 years in Corinthia, as I said, started in assistant, then a head sommelier, and now a wine director. Now, of course, the goal is, to make Corinthia really to be the place for people to go for a wine. Absolutely. Which necessarily, being quite honest, wasn't, and it still is not like the famous place, especially compared to the other hotel for a wine list. But now I'm able to build the team, really teach them the right way, that we can really. I can already see when I'm in the role now that we've moved somewhere, which is good to see. Could always move quicker. Naturally, I see now, being in a role for almost 2 years, there are certain things I've done right, certain things I could have done definitely much better. Now it's important to learn from them, and do it better next time. So still a big job ahead, to be honest. So
always.
And then when is it not there, then another challenge.
Another challenge.
Yeah. Well, with 10 years in the wine industry and moving countries alone can be quite a stressful experience. Those who have moved their lives.
Carlos came from Brazil, I came from South Africa, you came from the Czech Republic, and here we are, right?
It's all sorts of challenges. But throughout your career in wine, what is your most memorable experience with wine, either as a buyer or with a guest on the floor?
I mean, with a guest, it's probably doesn't sound as good as it felt, really.
Yeah.
But I remember this was one of those days when I was working in Dinner by Heston. Where I was literally having like a terrible client after a terrible guest, like just terrible. One was another.
Never
you know,
happy
guy,
with anything.
Yeah, never happy with this. Not necessarily complaining, but just like not interested. Because
Yeah.
some of those people, they really sort of make you feel like you're not, this job doesn't make sense for you to do. You're not being appreciated enough.
Yeah.
So I remember this. I had like the service. My mind was just going, oh, why I'm wasting my time? People don't appreciate my job.
Yeah.
And then actually, then I had a very young couple, very very interested in wine. Just started talking to them about wine and about my favorite wines. Then they decided to have it. It was an expensive wine, really, but it really sort of brought to me the joy of work and doing this. And it was that contrast of that day was really, which really made me feel like, I really do like my job. And
Yeah.
so as I said, for me it feels kind of more emotional, and it doesn't sound that exciting. But I remember it because it was one of those days when I was just like, I really just want to walk out. I just don't want to do this job anymore. I just don't want to face a guest. It's not good. And then actually, I had it was actually one of the worst tables I had. That early seating was changed for one of the nicest tables, the actual same table.
The same table.
So it was very funny.
An awful table to nice table. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've been in hospitality for a while now, and it's really tough.
Yes.
For people working on the floor, I'm sure all of our guests and some of the people watching are kind of in hospitality, but a lot of our guests are the people who keep us going and who support us over the years. They don't quite understand how difficult it is to walk onto a floor and always be talking to people and be right in front of the customer the whole time.
Yes.
If you're a lawyer or an accountant or you work in tech or something, you're in your job all day long. If you make a mistake, people probably don't see it. They don't see it, and you can make a bunch of mistakes during the day. It's not so public. It's not there. When you're on the floor and you forget to bring a bottle to the table, or you bring the wrong starter, or you serve the wine from the wrong side and someone gets upset, the public can be very easily offended sometimes, and then you get a scathing review or someone tells you off. But it's quite a difficult environment to work in. And I think if there's one thing we can do, on this podcast, is to get a little bit more empathy. Like I know you people love restaurants and you love wine, and you go out. If you're in a restaurant and someone makes a mess of something or makes a mistake, like take a deep breath, have a bit of empathy. It could be you, it could be your son or your daughter one day, like trying to get into the industry. As long as they fix it in a kind and nice way, give them the benefit of the doubt, and let them off. They're just people trying to serve us and do the best they can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. Being on the floor is like being on stage.
Yeah, all day, every
all
day,
day,
7 days a
every
week.
day. Imagine that instead of working in the office, you are performing on stage for 9 hours.
Yeah,
Everything that you do, people see, and it doesn't matter how.
and your energy levels dip.
Exactly, and you still have to come in and put on the show. Smile and be friendly and be warm and serve drinks and serve food and make recommendations. So it is quite a challenging job.
Yeah, it is.
Now on the flip side, working on the floor with people, you meet amazing people. You also have funny stories to tell.
Yeah.
I once was trying to open a bottle of champagne behind the bar with my director of ops sitting opposite me, and I managed to make a dog's breakfast of it. I lost the cork and I sprayed champagne all over myself. The director of operations sitting right there.
Who did the cork hit? Did the cork hit anyone?
No, luckily didn't. But how about you? Do you have a funny story that
I think one of the funniest one is when I was first time actually doing my decanting.
Oh yeah.
That was when I was working in Mandarin in Prague, and and it was a bottle of Brunello Biondisante. I'm not sure what was the vintage.
That's a fantastic wine, right?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic wine. It was a couple, actually, I believe they were from Brazil. Very, very nice people. So I went there with a carried onto the table, and somehow I had this idea that in order to decant, to see the sediment, you need to put the bottle into the flame, not just like above it. So I managed to so they were very nice, smiley, and this, and just suddenly I see the lady, like the smile was just suddenly changed into complete shock, and this what is happening?
Coming out of the bottle?
And then I'm decanting, and I'm just thinking, why actually I can't see anything, because of course of course, it burned completely the label. And everything. I couldn't really see anything, and the guy was still kind of like laughing, and I'm like, well, as long as they're having a good time, and then I was just like, then actually the label started to burning, and then the whole bottle was burning. I still managed to decant it, but then I just like
Did you just calmly walk off the floor with a burning bottle?
And then I just like looked at it, and I even tried to wipe the bottle, but it was just completely black dark. Fortunately, the wine was showing really, really well. That was the important part. I think it was the sommelier at that point was kind of just watching me and just was saying, well, "What the heck are you doing?" You know. But that was one of the funny stories. I didn't manage actually in my career to spray a champagne, even though I know that's happening very often.
That's happened a lot. Well, chop your thumb off while you're busy.
I managed obviously to do wrong top up.
Yeah. The wrong wine in the wrong glass.
Exactly, the wrong wine for a wrong table.
Wrong table.
Yeah, which was, so I remember that because it was kind of funny. It was a table of 6 and a young couple. And I managed to pour that young couple's wine in the table of 6, like businessmen and this. I poured into that.
So you made a blend?
Yeah, literally. I made a blend. Fortunately, the wine profile was quite similar.
That table of 6 you drunk enough.
But then what I realized is the problem is that I poured out pretty much that young couple that was having the bottle. They literally just had the 2 glasses, and there is a little bit left.
Okay.
So they would probably notice that.
So you had to
half
get a
of
new
the
bottle.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, this is the. You don't tell the guest necessarily, but I of course opened the new bottle and sort of poured it out a little bit, so everyone was happy, because it was the same. But yeah, this was.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a really funny story. Thanks for sharing. So I had, I think it was Humble Grape Podcast. So the first 6 months, Humble Grape Podcast was open. I was working the evenings, probably 3-4 nights a week, because we just opened. We did a little fundraise to get things going. I had a day job and I was working in the evenings, and I remember. I was very excited. If someone ordered a nice bottle, I would put it in a decanter. And I think there was a table of 4, and there was a lady with a white dress sitting over here. And I had the decanter, and I was pouring them wine through the night, and then things were going really well. And then towards the latter stage of their dinner, I put the decanter down, but it wasn't one of those big flat ones. It was like a medicine bottle kind of, because I went for modern stuff. And I put it down, but I didn't see her phone was there. And it kind of tipped, and she had a lap full of red wine.
Oh,
jeez. It was kind of awkward, and it was a red dress, and I was like, do I dab? Where do you go from there? No, you can't dab. It's on the dress. It's like, it was just so awkward. I was so embarrassed. I went red. Profusely apologized, offered to dry clean the dress. I mean, they were okay with it. They were pretty good. But I mean, it pretty much now you can't go out afterwards. It was Saturday night, so she couldn't go out for dinner. She had to go home and chat. It was a bit of a shambles. And my team, obviously, afterwards, they were laughing at me because, you shouldn't be on the floor, boss. You have no idea. You have no idea what table numbers are. Yeah, which is, and you pour wine all over the guests. You shouldn't be allowed on the floor.
True, very true.
Yeah. What is the best part for you of working at Corinthia Hotel? What gets you excited when you get up in the morning?
It must be working with Daniele. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Daniele, by the way.
Shout out to Daniele.
No, but obviously, I would say it's still, as I mentioned, it's the team. It's definitely the best part of Corinthia. Of course, the sommelier team, the restaurants, the F&B team, which I'm sitting in office with.
You must have some real characters, the GMs and stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for example, our managing director, Thomas Cox, is a very inspirational leader. Obviously, he's proper hotelier. He knows how to run the business. It's very exciting to listen to him. It's always something.
Is he inspirational?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, he knows he's a former F&B guy, so
wow.
So he's obviously very passionate about the F&B side. He's very supportive, let's say, to our wine program, to the whole F&B And it's just, amazing sometimes when we go to a meeting, listen to him and this, because he's got decades and decades of experience. Of course, worked for Mayborn Group for years. Obviously, it's in Corinthia for quite a while. Kind of managed to turn the place in a really good direction. So yeah, and many others. And not just like talking about the management. Of course, our hotel manager Jochen is very, very nice, very supportive as well, and a great person. Daniele talking it's great to work with Daniele as well. So this is really the great part of it. And then of course the guest as well. I do enjoy it, especially now when I see how we are evolving, for example, with the wine program. It's really what keeps me excited going to work, and it's the best part of it. And this obviously comes with the management. I can have my vision and this is what to do, but if there is no support from above or below, then it's not going to work. And fortunately, this is like in Corinthia, I have the support, and this is the exciting part. Again, as I say, if there wouldn't be the support and there wouldn't be the challenge ahead, well, then if it's probably time to change. But it's not the case. So that's the good part. And when we're creating something, we are all very excited. Next year we're going to open the new restaurant with Francesco Mazzei. That's going to be a big project. So now
he's a famous chef, right?
Yes. So we are all super, super excited to open the restaurant, new Italian place. This is where the Norfolk restaurant currently is. It's going to be completely refurbed, and this.
Brilliant. That must be costing a fortune.
Yeah, it must be. I mean, I don't want to know. This is.
It's going to be great.
Because I'll be saying, all right, you're spending this amount on a design. Just buy wine.
Of course, you're the wine guy. You want to buy all wine.
No, exactly.
So one of the
it doesn't appreciate. So
it doesn't appreciate. Depreciates. One of the questions I was interested in asking you is because at Humble Grape, obviously, we try and employ people who are looking after our customers, who love wine, who studied wine, and who are passionate about it. But we don't necessarily want them to try and sell the customer something they love. We want to try and get them to get the customer something that the customer loves. That's kind of our focus, what we're trying to do here. And we train people, every time there's a service, pre-service, there's some training. Carlos does training like once a week where he takes them through like a different producer. We get producers that come over here. We've got Chantal Gonnet from Gonnet in Champagne, which is right next to Salon. Mm-hmm. She's over for the week. She's training the team. Yes. Like it's like the winemaker is talking directly to our people, so that when and then for vineyards that don't come visit us that often from California, we do Zoom calls. We do on-the-floor training with the GMs. We do lots and lots of training to try and get that level of experience for us, which is very relaxed, informal, fun, but still, go out of your way to get the client an amazing wine. And then also to try and be, a little bit commercial, right? If the customer wants something really interesting and exciting, allow them to spend a bit more money, and if they're really on a budget, to just be conscious of that and give them something that suits that. I mean, how do you guys do that there? Do you have like huge training manuals? Is it more just personal? Like, how do you run a training program?
I mean, when it comes to wine, it's very, sommeliers are all quite a bit of a characters. So it's all very much individual to the particular person.
Okay.
When it comes to, yes, there are certain individuals, they prefer this wine, that someone prefers something different. Of course, what is very important for us, especially being in a 5-star hotel, it's not about what the sommelier wants to sell.
Yeah.
It's about what the guest wants.
Yes.
Naturally. Of course, then there are those questions that I tell the sommeliers to ask, and this to make the experience unique and memorable. So of course, if there are people, they're having a business lunch, they don't want to hear a story about a small producer in Tuscany who brews wine like this to avoid afternoon sun, etc.
Exactly.
They don't care about that, of course. So, but then this is important for the people, for the sommeliers to read the table and to really come up with a tailor-made experience to each table. Mm-hmm. And this is where, of course, individual sommelier can bring the what they prefer and what they like. Mm-hmm. So for this, everyone pretty much needs to have a very, very unique knowledge. So I do, for example, a lot of blind tastings with the team. We do it in this Court of Master Sommeliers way, which basically you analyze the wine. But it's a very, very good exercise to do with the team, because of course we are sometimes opening certain wine on the floor 5 times, 6 times a day, especially when it comes to entry-level Sauvignon Blanc, entry-level Chablis.
Yeah.
And let's say the team is not the most excited about these wines, but actually when they're having blind tasting and they're saying, oh yeah, I'm not a big fan of this, they have it on blind tasting and they call it something completely different. It really helps them to open the mind and think about the wine, thinking about the quality. Mm-hmm. So I really, for example, do enjoy this, working with the sommeliers on the blind tasting.
So blind tasting, that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah. So we do this pretty much every week. We gather the sommeliers. I usually get the wines, speak to the supplier. We obviously pay for it, so everyone chips in, 60, 70 quid. Mm-hmm. I do 6, 7 sessions out of this. Of course, use some of the samples we get from suppliers as well. Nice. And we do like 6 wines, and everyone describes one wine and this. And then we can really look at things like, sugar levels, etc., in wine, because people are sometimes, I don't like this, I find this, and this, and this, but then they have it on blind tasting and they actually say, oh, you actually really like this.
Yeah.
I remember this because obviously I was victim of this. We had this, when I was working in Dinner by Heston, we had this entry-level Bordeaux. It was our house wine.
Yeah. And
because it was entry-level house wine,
I
was not excited. Just like, this table, they're drinking this wine again. Of course, exactly that sort of very, very bad habit of sommeliers, just like not being excited about it. But then we had a blind tasting. I was like, this is really good. I really like this. Oh, and then revealed the blind tasting is this one. That really taught me, like, don't really,
it's amazing.
You need to have the whole picture of the wine, and of course then help the team as well, and then translate it to the guests.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's a classic example of how your expectations and your mental model completely overrides what's in the bottle and how it tastes and how you should appreciate it. I've got a French friend, shout out to Seb, and when I met him 10 years ago, he said, like, if it's a red, it's got to be a Pomerol, and if it's a white, it's got to be a Chablis. And I'm like, why is that? Well, that's what my father used to drink. And I'm like, well, do you actually even like Pomerol and Chablis? He's like, well, that's all he drinks. So I got him in a room one day and I opened a whole bunch of Italian reds and all sorts of stuff. And it turns out that he loves Primitivo, right? Which he would have scoffed at. Primitivo, and I think it was a South African Sauvignon Blanc or something that he were his favorite, and not a Chablis and not a Pomerol. And we had them all in the blind tasting. And then after that, his mind was open, right?
Yeah, exactly. You just need to open the eyes of people with this, And of course, if you will be pushing people to do it the wrong way, they would always think
they reject it. Yeah,
they reject it.
Yeah.
It's also fun to do with the guest if the guest is open. I always do this, when I have some interesting table who really likes wine. We always have some samples, something like this. Bottle we open exactly leftovers from a tasting. I give them blind tasting. Let me know what you think, and they think, oh, this is very, very exciting, and actually, and then they come next time and they are like, they already know that they can trust us, and they just say, pick whatever you think is interesting. Yeah. Of course, you still need to think of what they enjoyed last time. I mean, if they enjoyed last time, I don't know, Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, you will probably not give them Oak Chardonnay from California. They might,
or white road.
Yeah, exactly. But it might be the case. Depends how adventurous the guest is. But this is again coming to the point that you just ask those questions, and if someone is into it, let's do it. So and it keeps the guest excited. It keeps the sommeliers excited, and it's a good fun to do. So this is one of the least things I hate the most, when people just tell you, I want to drink French wine and this, okay, well, interesting. I mean, there's lots of very bad wine in France.
Yeah, I think people are scared, so they just stick to what they know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think as a sort of a sommelier role, within the limits, of course, not pushing people only what you think.
Yeah.
It's always good to give them a choice, especially when we have big wine list with wines from all over the world.
Yeah.
It's very nice for the sommeliers to use it and to show that there is something else than French wine. Nothing against just French wine, but it's always good to try from somewhere else. And then exactly, people are very excited about it. They talk about it. They go around. They say, okay, we've been to Corinthia. The sommelier showed us Pinot Noir from Oregon. It was very, very exciting.
Yeah.
And since then, they are drinking it everywhere.
Brilliant.
So,
Yeah. Very, very interesting. We've had the conversation towards recommending wines to customers or not recommending or pushing our tastes onto customers. So I think it would be interesting for our listeners and people watching to get some advice from someone with your knowledge in your position on how to read a wine list. Because we will have listeners that are all in different stages of their wine journey. And it can be quite scary when you get delivered a comprehensive wine list like yours. My God, where do I start? So first question that we normally hear on the floor is price a good way of choosing wine from a wine list?
a price.
Yes.
I mean,
Let's say
I
choosing
would-
the cheapest or choosing the most expensive.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, price. Doesn't mean that if you see a wine which is £10,000, that it's 10 times better than the £1,000 wine.
Yeah.
That's of course not really the right meter how to measure the quality of a wine and what would you enjoy. So I would say that the main thing is obviously if you're in an establishment that has the sommelier, to ask sommelier what you like, what do you enjoy, and exactly. And if you say French, that's not really that.
Not
Really
helpful.
doesn't narrow it down because
So
exactly.
what should they say?
Exactly. So I think a little bit of grape variety, fruit profile, if they enjoy residual sugar in the wine or not. Obviously now the trend is that people don't enjoy it. But for example, of course, what we hear a lot, we actually talked about it with the sommeliers this morning, that people are saying that they're asking for a sweet red wine.
Okay,
Sweet red wine.
So do they mean more fruity or that
Exactly. They need something more fruity, a little bit more extracted, generous, a bit more plush, velvety.
Yeah.
They probably don't look for sort of more
Vintata.
earthier side. Yeah, exactly. So, of course, then if it's sweet red wine and you would give them, I don't know, let's say port, then they would realize it's not exactly what I want.
Exactly.
They want to see some of that profile on the palate. So I think it's important just look to tell the sommeliers what you like.
Yeah.
So they can give you the right suggestion. It's not. I would not say the people should definitely not be shy to ask for a taste if the wine is available by the glass. That's a perfect thing.
Yeah,
of course, if you ask, can I have a taste of this, and that,
that's a
and
bit
that,
cheeky.
five,
Yeah.
that's a cheeky. But of course, if you come and you say, okay, I'm not sure, could I try this one and this? Is the Riesling, does it have a sugar? Because normally Riesling people are scared that it has residual sugar. Could I try it? They try it, they like it very much, and that's not a problem. If they don't like it, great, we lost 5 ml of wine. The business will survive.
What would you do if you served a wine and it's in perfectly good condition, arrives at the table and the customer's chosen the bottle and they drink it and they go, oh, I just don't like this wine?
I mean, of course, then there is if they don't like it. Of course, just being, this is, for example, what I'm telling to my sommeliers. This is, extremely important. There are certain wines with certain character, and of course, as a sommelier, you're supposed to know this. There's a little bit of oxidation with these bottles, whether the wine is reductive.
Like a Sauvignon, for example.
Exactly.
Someone used that by accident.
Exactly. So sometimes people choose this. So this is exactly prior even opening the bottle. Explain the style of the wine. Of course, if someone orders Old Sauvignon, and then the sommelier doesn't advise them what's the style, and then they say they don't like it. Of course, it would be different if they would claim that the wine is faulty, but they don't like it. Of course, for example, in a hotel like Corinthia, of course, it depends. Now it's many factors. Does the person stay in a hotel? Is it a regular? Is it someone who came, walking from street? We have no details. This is all details we need to take in consideration. If is it wine which is 70, 80 pounds on the list, even if it's some person who came from off the street, we of course can take it back. We can sell it by the glass. If the wine is good, we can do something with it, because we want the guests to enjoy
and come back
and enjoy the comeback. So then, of course, if someone would be claiming certain things which are not there, if let's say would claim someone would claim that wine is faulty while it's not being
after
faulty.
they've had 3/4 of the bottle. Right?
Exactly.
I'm not quite sure I like
Exactly.
it.
So this is there are certain conversation you need to have with that person, but overall don't have that many people. I mean, of course, I had it in the past with some very expensive bottles. Sometimes, of course, if there is like a person literally just not listening to you and thinking their stuff exactly, if is it even, let's say, below £300, we can still manage to sell it, let's say, on Coram and this, to at least minimize the wastage and at least cover
Recover some of the cost.
recover some of the cost. Then exactly, if it's someone regular and it just doesn't like the wine, of course we can take it back, and it's not the end of the world. It's a difference if someone is just being cheeky and trying to play the game, or if is it just genuinely guest who picked the wrong which happened to all of us.
I've done that. I when I was getting into wine, I would choose a wine, would come to the table and sit there, I'd have a glass, and I go, oh, and then I would just drink the whole bottle because I'd be too scared to say I don't like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say, but I had it myself, and I didn't like something, and I would be very happy, not like necessarily to send it back, but if is it not right, if the wine is not good, I'm very happy to send it back. People shouldn't be shy
That's a good
of
point.
this as well. It happened to me. I served corked wine. Unfortunately, I think if I would really count it, I think it was like maybe 2-3 occasions. So it's not a problem to doubt this and to try this again. Of course, for example, in our hotel, sommelier always needs to try the wine. Like it literally, it's to make sure that it's good, because it's not up the guest
To
they are not there to analyze the wine. We are responsible to make sure that the wine is in a good condition. And then, of course, if guest raises some concern, then we're going to retaste, we're going to have a look at it. Sometimes you really might have the case that the bottle is not showing well, really. It can be a little bit shy.
That happens.
So, it might need some time to open. Sometimes it's that person just had a bite into a foie gras, so the perception on the palate has changed. So those are all things which literally come to the, need to be taken into consideration, and then obviously discuss with the guests.
That's a really good point you raise. I've seen people complain about wine, and I'm watching them eating dessert and trying to drink a red. Oh, this red's not very nice. It's got no fruit. It's like, but you're busy scoffing some ice cream. So it's you're not gonna get any of the fruit or the sweetness of the wine, because if you stop that and put some sugar or some lemon in your mouth and then try that wine again, it'll be a lot sweeter, right?
No, absolutely. So those are all the small details, and of course the most important fact is just being professional about it,
keeping the guest happy.
Keep the guest happy, and of course, especially the head sommelier need to judge this the right way. Need to make the call. I mean, I remember this actually. I'm talking about the funny story I had. I remember once, it was one of the first days I was in charge when I worked in Dinner by Heston, and we opened a very expensive bottle of wine, and it was showing a little bit of I was not sure if the wine was okay in this, and at the time I was a senior sommelier, and not the assistant or the head sommelier was not there, and I had to make that call whether to serve it or not. So I said yes, because it was very expensive. We served it, and then 5-10 minutes later, when the wine was getting into temperature, I noticed the wine is actually absolutely fine. And the guest actually left very, very little to it, and so the next day, head sommelier could taste it, and it was actually okay.
Brilliant.
So we always need to make that call.
Of
course, sometimes
because it's not an exact science.
Sometimes people would say, especially the non-sommelier stuff. Sometimes guests just say, I think it's correct, and you just literally need to go to the table and explain them that it's actually not. And the people are, in 90% of the times,
They just want to be reassured.
They just want to be reassured by someone who has the knowledge, who has the, because, why we do serve corked wine? If you have a corked wine, of course, we can send it back to the winery in most cases. And I don't want that. And of course, if the guest would not enjoy it, then...
Exactly.
And I had this, I think last time I served corked wine was in 2021, I remember it was a German guest. The wine was exactly, when it was open, maybe a little bit. I took that gamble. I think it's absolutely fine. Then he came to me 10 minutes later. He said, I think this is This is corked, and that's it. I retasted it. I just immediately, okay, this is done. I mean, I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, I'm literally like about to finish. So this is the time when you put your head down. I gave them some sweet wine. Of course, they didn't pay for the wine, and I just like gave them my card. Just like I'm really sorry. This is entirely my fault. Because no one's, I do make mistakes. Everyone does. And the guests actually came several times after, and they really enjoyed themselves. Of course, I could just say, no, I think the wine is fine, and pretend I didn't make that mistake. But then he would probably still happily, he was a very nice person, pay for it, but wouldn't probably come back and would probably be going around saying that this is a place where you shouldn't be having a bottle of wine. So it's important as a sommelier to acknowledge this.
So for some of the listeners here, like if they're in a restaurant and they taste a corked wine, what is the difference between a corked wine and an uncorked wine? If you can both give an answer, just so people have an idea. We'll start with you, Carlos.
Well, that is one of the things that can be tricky to judge. Because some of the cork taint are very subtle. You won't get immediately that smell of wet cardboard or that musty smell that comes with it.
And so what is cork? What is a cork wine? Is it oxidized? Is it just gone off? Is it what's happened there?
Corked wine literally comes from the wine coming in contact with a cork that's been tainted.
Okay.
That sometimes happened all the way back when the cork was back on the tree. The tree was contaminated by the taint. So in the very light cases, the fruitiness of the wine will disappear. The wine isn't as fruit or isn't showing the aromas that it should. And then in the really bad cases, it will have a very heavy, musty cardboard, wet cardboard smell, corky smell.
Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, of course. So you get a TCA in the wine that it sort of gets into the wine through the cork. So, and as you said, they can't really trace where it comes from. They sometimes when the bark is being dry, they think it might be coming from the earth. And this, of course, now we have other closures, obviously, like Diam, which is very good, which can't really have the TCA. There could be other faults with the wine.
It could come from the winery as well.
Exactly. Exactly. I had a screw cup wine, which obviously was tainted with the cork, so it's not necessarily related sometimes to the cork, which in most cases it is. But exactly, you get that cardboard smell, this sort of musty, character to it. It's very hard to distinguish, especially when is it very gently corked wine. I had it many times. We wine dinners with sommeliers. That it was a bottle and someone says, I think there is little bit. Then half says, no, I think it's fine. And the other half says.
And the only way to get the difference is to open another identical bottle and taste them side by side.
Exactly, pretty much. But it can also, something with older wine, there could be a bottle variation. Usually time will tell, but when you're having a dinner, will you have another 6 hours to wait when the wine opens up?
I like those dinners.
And to just decide if it's bad or not. Well, you need to have another bottle to open it. Of course, if there is a doubt, then don't serve it, especially when is it something sort of affordable. You can just easily open another bottle, or wait give it another smell. Ask another person. Not a problem at all. Me, when I'm thinking the wine is corked, I do double check with other sommeliers. Not sommeliers, because you can smell it. It's also important when you identify this, not to swirl the glass like crazy, because then of course all the remaining aromas of the fruit, which is still there, which is just hiding behind the cork thing, is still there. It's coming out, so it's covering it as well.
That's good advice. I didn't know that.
So when in doubt about a corked wine, just have a little bit, don't swirl it, smell a little bit, and you see it. And of course, if someone who is not sommelier is just doubting that the wine is not okay, then of course feel free to double check with the sommelier. No one should be ashamed to double check with the sommeliers. Of course, you have people sometimes that they say the wine is corked when you just tasted that fresh New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc under screw cup. And then is it just sort of, no, it's not. There could be other faults with the wine. But then, of course, then it depends on the guest. maybe they just think that the wine is not all right. It could be a glass as well.
Oh, the glass could be dirty. I've seen that.
Exactly.
So
it could be the glass could be coated with a detergent. It could have some smell inside.
yeah.
So sometimes it's the glass itself. So there's so many factors when it comes serving the
Sometimes
wine
it's
right.
the cloth they use to polish
Exactly,
the glass,
the
that
cloth.
left smell behind.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you see at restaurants that they use the same dishwasher for the glasses as for the dishes.
Yes, yeah, that's
for
a
the
big
plates.
problem.
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
So there's so many things,
Yeah.
you know. So
Interesting. So I think just to close this off, it would be really nice to know from you. Imagine I'm a young person, or maybe I've been working in finance or whatever I've been doing for years, and all of a sudden now I want to get into wine. I want to get into wine. I want to work in wine. I would say, what would you recommend for a young person? How do they go about getting into the wine world and doing that kind of stuff?
I mean, of course, you know, the best way if they want to start working in a wine is to, you know, whether they want to work on a floor or whether they want to work in a wine shop or for a wholesaler. Of course, to be exposed and to have someone like as a mentor. So, of course,
Yeah.
let's say you had your career for 10 years somewhere else, you will need to take the step down.
Yeah.
Step down, take the sort of a junior role. Go to a good place where you're exposed to
Lots of different wines.
lots of different wines, where you manage to taste a lot, and of course where you have some senior person who can teach you and who can give you the mentorship. I think that's really the most important part, and that can guide you through the wine, because the wine is a lot about self-studying, but of course you need other people to develop that.
Yeah.
Because it's the same for me studying now, you know, for the master sommelier, and this I do this with people. If I would like to do this alone, I wouldn't be able to do it. For example, my former boss, he's a master sommelier. He's obviously within the limits what he can help, where he can help me. He does a blind tasting for me. He tells me what to do, what to look at when doing blind tasting. He's much better taster than me, and this is just important. Even for me in my role, I go to him and I ask, okay, I need your help. What about this and that? Because
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this, and he advises me how to do things
Okay.
in my level. So there's always, you know, someone who you can learn from. So if someone would decide to go to the wine path to be a sommelier, just go join a place with
Somewhere
a
you
good
can
team.
learn. Yeah.
Exactly, with a good environment, with a place where you push each other. Very, very important.
Yeah.
You know, again, you know, something we discussed earlier, that you have the goal and the others are having it as well. So you push each other, you just become better and better day by day. Of course, there are certain people, they suddenly decide that they want to become master of wine in the next 3 years.
Yeah, that's unrealistic, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are some people they push just for that. But, you know, just being a master of wine doesn't mean you know everything. You know? So certain people just see the title and they just want that. But I think, you know, wine, our world is such a...
Yeah.
And not everyone wants to be a master of wine, master of sommelier. You know, so I think the important part is really to the team again. Something I said earlier, working in the right team where people push each other in a healthy way. It's just really important. What can just develop you more and more. I mean, I always remember when I was working in Dinner by Heston, and now I'm telling it to people as well, to push each other, to go to each other, ask the questions about this wine.
Yeah.
Go around, you open a wine, go to the other section for the sommelier, give him it as a blind tasting. What do you think? You know, on my days off and everything, I was always going to do blind tastings and this. You know, I'm not doing this during my work hours. You know, I go days off studying. You know, you need to commit. It's a big commitment. You know, especially if you want to be really good one day. It's a big commitment. You know, for all these exams and blind tastings. I did days off. Other people just
thousands of wine.
Exactly. Other people went for a beer and they went to see colleagues in the pub.
Yeah.
The sommeliers, we went, okay, let's catch up. Let's do a blind tasting. We used to go like a vagabond where you can pour yourself the wine. We did blind tastings for ourselves. Now I'm doing it with other people who are preparing for the master sommelier exam, that we are tasting wines together. We had a call with them, 30 questions. I have a guy who I used to work 10 years ago. He's now working, he moved back to Germany. Every day we send each other 10 questions every morning. Just 10 questions. He sends me, I send him, just to practice this. So it's important to get the right mentality, because sometimes people see the wine
And you stop learning.
as sort of a bit of like a fairy tale, like, oh yeah, it's just so nice to work with wine. You just drink, you don't do anything. It's actually like, it can be very demanding job.
There's a lot of homework to be done.
Exactly, there's lots of it's a big commitment for people to do. So if people get the right mindset and to work with the right people, I think it's the best way to do it. And then of course,
Brilliant.
Just take it for another step.
Thank you so much for coming on this journey with us. We really enjoyed chatting to you today, and thank you, Carlos, for your input.
Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Martin.
we look forward to seeing you at the Corinthia Hotel.
Absolutely.